Hi everyone, I'm Claire. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a seasonal book wrap-up where I'll be chatting with you about all the books that I've read this summer. Let's get right into it. The first book that I read this summer was All Systems Red by Martha Wells. I gave this a 2.75 stars. I just wasn't a fan. I didn't think it was as funny as I was hoping it would be. I didn't love the narration. It's actually quite interesting that I didn't like it that much because after I finished the book, I immediately started watching the Apple TV show version of it, and I loved the show. I thought the monotoned nature with which Murderbot speaks and the general comedy of it just worked for me in show format, but not so much in book format. I don't know, I wasn't jiving with it, and I thought a lot was cut out where it shouldn't have been in terms of description and explanation. I understand that the author was trying to make a novella and that was the whole point of it, but I think some things were just kind of skimmed over, and again, the comedy didn't really hit for me in book format, which is just so weird because it does in the show format. The second book that I read was the ebook of A Short Stay in Hell. I gave that 5 stars, which was a great turnaround after All Systems Red. I had a lot of fun with that one. I loved how it was set up, and I'm not a huge novella person, I've realized, but this one just really did it for me. I think not only was there enough world building and enough character development, but it was very visceral and I felt like I was there. I felt like he had a hold over the idea that he was kind of playing with, which makes sense because it's not his original idea, it's more what he's done and what he's built off of it in terms of this infinite hell and this idea of finding the book that details your entire life out of all the possible books given certain constraints like page constraints, using all characters. It's a really fun concept, and again, I know he didn't come up with it, but what he did with it with his characters was really well done, and I just had so much fun reading it. After that, I listened to the audiobook for We Should All Be Feminists, which is an essay by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I gave that a 4-star rating, I believe. It's really hard for me to rate nonfiction, and I try not to, unless there's something blaringly wrong with it or I have a problem with how it's researched maybe, then I'll give a few comments on it, but I gave that a 4 stars just for my own sort of stats and for documentation purposes, but I thought it was it was a good essay. I mean, I don't really have that much else to say about it. It was a super quick audio book, so it must have been a really short book. It's about 45 minutes. A lot of audiobooks toward the beginning of June, or end of June. June 21st to beginning of July. But the next book is The Wild Robot by Peter Brown. I gave that another 2.75 star rating. It's not that I dislike middle grade, because if you look at another video on my channel, I definitely talk about middle grade that I enjoy, and there are plenty of middle grade books that I come back to and reread over and over again. I think this was another case, which you'll see a lot in this wrap-up, of me not really liking the audiobook narrator. The narration was quite robotic. That's funny for me to say that because it's the wild robot. But the narrator's not supposed to be the robot. The narrator's kind of like this omniscient, like third person perspective. So I don't feel like it was necessarily supposed to be robotic. It was just that the narration felt a little robotic. I think the author could have done a little bit more with the story. I would even venture to say that it's not really middle grade, it's even below middle grade. And maybe that's why I didn't like it. So again, this could easily be, this is what I didn't like about it, but it wasn't really made for me, so that's okay. Next book, and first book that I read physically in this season, was Lore Olympus Volume 1 by Rachel Smythe. I don't actually know how to pronounce that. And I saw Lore Olympus in the bookstore, and I saw that it was a Greek retelling of the Persephone and Hades myth. I thought that was interesting. I don't really read Greek retellings. I know there are a lot out there, but I don't normally pick them up. I thought this one might be interesting, especially since it says on the cover that it's the #1 webtoon. Thought, okay, I don't really know anything about webtoons, but we'll try it out. I gave it a 4.25 stars. The art is really nice. It's really cool, very interesting, engaging. I'm definitely going to read more graphic novels after this. The story was interesting enough. I wanted to get through it and see what was going to happen. I was excited to keep reading it. I think that's why I kind of landed around 4.25. It was good. Next book is 100 Shadows by Huang Jungin, and this is translated by Jung Yewan. I picked this up at Kinokuniya when I went in early July. I read the blurb for this and I thought it sounded very interesting. So essentially, it's set in a Seoul slum marked for demolition. The residents' shadows have begun to rise. No one knows how or why, but they warn each other. Do not follow your shadow if it wanders away. Employees of a small electronics repair shop, Eungyo and Muje, can only watch their tight-knit community begin to fade as the landscape of their lives is torn apart, building by building. Their growing connection with one another provides solace, but against an uncaring ruling class and the inevitability of the rising shadows, their relationship may not be enough. This is one of multiple originally in Korean novels that I've picked up this year, and I really like how Korean authors write romance. It's reserved and gentle, and it actually feels more, I guess I would say, soulful, almost like the people who are being described in this relationship are coming together by natural forces and not by the force of fluffy and romantic writing. I also really just appreciated the insight that this gave me into the redevelopment and the culture behind redevelopment in South Korea and in Seoul specifically. It is for that reason and many other reasons that this was a 5-star read for me. I haven't really heard a lot about it, so I would definitely recommend it to everyone. The next book up is Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This was a 3-star read for me. I was pretty disappointed in it. I thought I was gonna like it a lot more. I think I went in with incorrect expectations. It says Atmosphere, a love story on it, and I just didn't like the love story. So that was most of the book. I didn't find it very interesting for a love story, and I wasn't super convinced or into the romance that the two characters had. I also was just wishing that there was more space stuff involved and NASA related content, but again, that's on me because it says a love story. It's not supposed to be about NASA or space. It's supposed to be about the main characters. The reason it's a 3 and not something lower is because there are some emotionally powerful moments in space and among our main character's friend group that were pretty impactful, and so that raised the rating a little bit for me. The next book is The Love of My Afterlife, which is, I think, the only romance that I've ever given a 5-star. I had so much fun with this. I have the physical book, but I originally read it in audiobook. I listened to it from Libby, and I loved it so much I had to buy it. I just had to pick it up so that I could have my own physical copy. I thought the romance was super believable. The magical realism was so much fun. The whole idea of meeting somebody in the afterlife and then coming back to life and having communications with the afterlife and sort of making a deal with the afterlife kind of thing, second chance at life. It was just really cute, and I really like the audiobook narrator. If you're looking for a romance that's good on audiobook, I definitely recommend this. Next up is The Easy Life in Kamasari by Shion Miura, translated by Juliet Winters Carpenter. This follows Yuki Hirano, who essentially graduates from high school and doesn't really know what he's going to do with his life. He doesn't have a lot of prospects. His parents enroll him in a forestry training program in Kamasari, which is a mountain village that's super isolated. It's very hard to get to. There's no cell service. And this kind of follows, it's almost like in diary format. I think he's writing, like he's writing a book of sorts. That's what this book is, of his time there, him meeting everyone, learning the customs of this village and the people. I give this a 3.5 stars. I liked it and I found it very cozy, but it was really hard for me to get through actually for how short it is. It's only 180 pages and it took me weeks to read. I don't know if it was too cozy for me, maybe too much into the not a lot's happening, we're just kind of following the day to day. That really could have been it, because I do like cozy mysteries and cozy thrillers, but cozy fantasy, I don't know yet. I'm not convinced that it's for me. Overall, I would definitely recommend it if that's what you're into. The main character's funny. He's unlikable in a lot of ways, but he's funny, and the customs of this village are super interesting to learn about. Funny side characters, each with their own super distinct personality. So in that way, it's really good writing. Lucky for me, the next book up is another 5-star read, and that's The Compound by Eileen Rahl. This was so much fun. I read this in one day, and that rarely happens to me. I did not want to stop reading this. This is, if I were to quickly describe it, it's like a dystopian Love Island, like complete mess. Bomb blown up everywhere. Not a lot of dystopian world building, if that's what you're expecting. I know a lot of people didn't like that about this. I actually like that it's super isolated. The main character is quite unlikable. I think that fits the point of the book. Ending really great for me. Again, I know a lot of people don't like it. There are a lot of action sequences in this that I like a lot. I was just glued to it. Like, if this was the screen, I was glued to the screen. I did not want to put this down. I did not want it to be over. And it gets very thrillery. It's not just like, oh, this is some messed up Love Island fake world. It gets pretty thrillery, and why am I saying thrillery? Thrilling. It gets very thrilling and exciting. If you like reality television, you're probably gonna like this. This book is the reason why I read The Villain Edit, which is a book that I just made a vlog about a couple of days ago. We're getting there, we're about halfway there, but the next book is River East, River West, so hard to say, River East, River West by Aubrey Lescure. First things first, 5 stars. I feel like I shouldn't give anything away about it. It's a family and social drama, and it follows 2 timelines, one in 2007, one in 1985. The 2007 timeline follows a young teenage girl, and the 1985 timeline follows that same young girl's future stepfather. So he's her stepfather in 2007. Reluctantly, she does not like him. But the 1985 timeline is following him as a young man when he was originally in his first marriage before he met our main character's mother. It's an unexpected combination of perspectives. The author weaves these 2 timelines together to create this really heartwarming and also sad and touching story of these 2 people coming together and finding each other. It's really special, and I recommend it to everyone. Just check the trigger warnings and the content warnings on this. Next up on the list is Bat Eater and Other Names for Cora Zhang. This is by Kylie Lee Baker, and I have a very interesting history with this book because the first 90 pages, I just couldn't get into it. It took me a month to get through 90 pages. So one day I just sat down and I thought, you know what, it's not that long. I just need to get through it. And I'm so glad I did, because it started when I finished at a 4-star rating, and slowly it worked its way up to a 4.5 because I just couldn't get it out of my head. It is one of those books that just burrows its way inside of you and you cannot forget it. It's just stuck there. But anyway, this follows Cora Zhang, and she's a crime scene cleaner washing away the remains of brutal murders and suicides in Chinatown. But none of that seems so terrible when she's already witnessed the most horrific thing possible, her sister, Delilah, being pushed in front of a train, which is in the first chapter and very traumatizing, by the way. Before fleeing the scene, the murderer shouted 2 words, Bat Eater. So the first 100 and something pages of this are just Cora going through the day-to-day routine of being a crime scene cleaner. And I think for me, I just found it like all gore, not a lot of content. It was really hard for me to get through. But then Kylie Lee Baker starts adding in these horror elements that aren't just this gore and bodily horror. It gets into ghost area and hearing things and being haunted. This is super, super atmospheric. The last 150 or so pages of this are action-packed like crazy. There's so much info being thrown out. There's so much happening in terms of horror and death and thrilling elements, just period. Like I said, I could not get it out of my head. I literally I could not stop thinking about this, and I kept raising my rating over and over again. So this is definitely an author that I will be picking up again, even though I haven't yet. Okay, now we have two thrillers that I read kind of back to back. The first one is Famous Last Words by Gillian McAllister, which I gave a 3.5 star rating. This was okay. I think if I was to say like an okay thriller, this is what, if I was to make a definition of it, this is what would show up. This would be the definition. There's not a lot of elements that are unexpected. It's like your typical somebody's gone missing and the spouse of whoever's gone missing is going to put it all together and figure it out alongside a couple cops and detectives. Not unexpected and not super thrilling or spooky or scary. Not that it's advertised to be any of those things, but it's just your basic thriller. It's okay. The other thriller is With a Vengeance by Riley Sager. This one is, what does it follow? They're on a train in 1942 and there's this woman, young woman, she has been wronged by a bunch of people. Her family legacy is a railroad company. So she decides to empty out the train, no other passengers, and she gets these 6 people on this train that have wronged her. And as the title suggests, she is going to be getting her vengeance. So it's just your typical like train whodunit. So many of those. As Riley Sager writes in the author's note at the end, with train mysteries, I feel like you either like them or you don't. And the aspect of them that I really like is the locked door kind of, we're all trapped on this train together, and there's a set amount of time that we have to solve the mystery or the murder or whatever might have happened. Because in this specifically, they leave, and each section besides the chapters is marked by section pages that break it up and are counting down the arrival. So 2 a.m., 6 hours to Chicago. But as I've said before, I really love a whodunit, and especially the goofy kind. This was a 4.25 star for me. And I know I'm in the minority on that. I really liked that book, and I know a lot of people didn't. After that, I read Seduction Theory by Emily Adrian. I had never heard of this when I bought this, but I got it from Book of the Month because I thought it sounded interesting. It's, your typical literary fiction. It says, when 2 married professors tiptoe toward infidelity, their transgressions are brought to light in a graduate student's searing thesis project. So there's this married couple, and they're both professors in the English department at this university. The man in the marriage, he has a physical affair. She has an emotional affair, if you will, with a graduate student. And the graduate student decides to write all of this down because she knows all of this from her personal conversations with her professor, the woman in the marriage. So she decides to make this her graduate thesis project because they all work in the English department at this university. I don't know, it was really hard to get through. It was really hard for me to make progress in it, even though it's just kind of light language, and it's not that it's too complex or too difficult to read. I just wasn't having a lot of fun reading it, but I think I gave this a 3.25 as a rating. It was okay. The last 2 books I am not going to talk about too in depth because I read them as part of my most recent mood reading vlog, which was Mood Reading with a Twist. And the twist was that I was connecting books based on some common element. The first book was The Villain Edit, which I gave a 3.75 rating. I just talked about this actually. I picked this up because I wanted to read more reality television, silly, goofy, over-the-top books, just like The Compound. This doesn't have any of the dystopian elements or anything like that. It's just a simple Bachelor-esque behind the scenes, and our main character is being painted as the villain. I like a lot of themes that this brings up, like not trusting what you see on television and assuming that editors are probably messing around with the edits that they give to certain people, and just because somebody is made out to be the villain on television or anywhere doesn't mean that they actually are. So I really like that. Oh, and that was written by Lori DeVore. I think I forgot to mention that. Last book is Julie Chan is Dead by Lian Zhang. I also read this for that mood reading vlog. This has a very similar overall theme. Despite not being reality television at all, it essentially follows Julie Chan. Her twin sister dies and Julie decides to take her identity to become an influencer, and some crazy whack stuff happens in this, and it gets absolutely unhinged, and it's a lot of fun to read. I gave this a 3.75 as well. It says at the top, outrageously fun, and it is outrageously fun. I just found the book a little slow, especially at the beginning, and the influencer speak, if you'd call it that, gets a little much at times. But I still had a lot of fun, like I just said. It's a 3.75. The next part of this video, I just want to briefly touch on some stats that I ran on my reading this season to see if there are some patterns or some areas for improvement, or just generally for fun, just to see how my reading season was. I read 20 books over the last 3 months, totaling 5,439 pages. I gave an average rating of 3.95, which is pretty good. I found some favorites in there, so that worked out pretty well. My most read genres of this season were literary fiction, mystery or thriller, and romance. 65% of the books that I read were in a physical format, so think graphic novel, paperback, hardcover. 25% were in audiobook format, and 10% were ebooks. 50% of the books were bought, 30% of them were already on my TBR shelf, and 20% were from the library, all of which were audiobooks. I have 5 favorites of the month. First is River East, River West. Second is The Compound. Third is Love of My Afterlife. And fourth is 100 Shadows. The only one that I don't have here is Short Stay in Hell. I have that on ebook. Those were all of my 5-star favorite reads. My least favorite books of the month were Atmosphere, All Systems Red, and The Wild Robot, all of which were audiobooks, which is super interesting. I guess maybe I wasn't convinced that I would love them, so I decided to listen through the library instead. The standout books of the season are probably The Compound, just because of how unique it was and how unexpected it was, and just how much fun I had reading that. Second would probably be Bat Eater and Other Names for Cora Zhang, because again, it really stuck with me. I still think about it sometimes. I'll just be sitting there and I'll start thinking about some scene, some horrific scene in that book. It just really left a mark on me. I don't know. And then the third book I would say is Lore Olympus, just because I have never read a graphic novel before, and that one has made me want to pick up more graphic novels, so it represents an introduction into a whole new category of reading for me. That is all I have for this seasonal wrap up, and I hope to see you next time. Thanks for watching.